The darkness of space stretched endlessly before the survey vessel Pathfinder as it moved through the outer reaches of human space. Captain Marcus Thompson stood at the bridge's main viewport, his tired eyes scanning the void ahead. 3 months of routine survey work had yielded nothing interesting, and his crew was getting restless. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range scanners," said Robert, the ship's sensor operator. His voice carried an unusual edge of excitement. "It's big, really big." Thompson walked over to the sensor station. His interest piqued. The Pathfinder wasn't meant to find anything out here. This sector had been declared empty decades ago. "Show me," he ordered, leaning over Robert's shoulder. The scan results made Thompson's heart skip a beat. The object was massive, easily several kilometers long. Its profile matched nothing in their database, yet something about its shape seemed oddly familiar. "Wake up Dr. Reed," Thompson commanded. "We're going to need her expertise on this one." As the bridge crew scrambled to action, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had just stumbled onto something important. Emma Reed arrived on the bridge 15 minutes later, her gray jumpsuit wrinkled from sleep. Her eyes widened as she looked at the sensor readings. "This can't be right," she whispered, fingers flying over the console. "The energy signature. It's human in origin." "Human." Thompson frowned. "There shouldn't be any human ships out here, especially not something this size." "Not just any human ship," Reed said, her voice filled with awe. "Captain, I think we found the Invincible." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Every human knew about the Invincible, the legendary dreadnought that vanished during the Centauri War 2 centuries ago. Its disappearance had marked a turning point in the war, leading to years of bitter struggle before humanity finally achieved a costly victory. "Get us closer," Thompson ordered. "But maintain safe distance. Robert, I want continuous scans. If anything so much as twitches out there, I want to know about it." The Pathfinder slowly approached the massive derelict. As they drew closer, the ship's external lights revealed the truth of Reed's identification. The scared hull bore the faded markings of the Earth fleet, and there, barely visible beneath 2 centuries of space dust, was the name, HMS Invincible. "Look at the hull damage," Reed said, studying the magnified images. "These aren't just battle scars. Something strange happened to this ship." She pointed to patterns of distortion in the metal. "I've never seen damage like this before." Thompson keyed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." He turned to his first officer. "Tom, I want a full security team ready for boarding. Dr. Reed, you're with them. Find out if that ship is safe to enter." The next few hours were tense as the crew prepared for boarding operations. The Pathfinder's small complement of 20 crew members moved with practiced efficiency, but Thompson could sense their nervous energy. This was supposed to be a simple survey mission, not a recovery operation for one of the most famous lost ships in human history. Reed's voice crackled over the comm as her team completed their initial survey. "Captain, you need to see this. The ship's internal atmosphere is mostly intact. More importantly, we're detecting power readings. They're weak, but they're there. This ship isn't dead." Thompson joined the boarding team in the Pathfinder's airlock. As he checked his suit seals, he couldn't help but wonder what they would find aboard the Invincible. The history books said the ship had been carrying experimental weapons technology, something that might have turned the tide of the war if it had reached its destination. The team crossed the void between the ships using their suit thrusters. Up close, the Invincible was even more impressive. Despite the damage and age, its massive weapon ports and thick armor plating spoke of its original purpose as humanity's most powerful warship. They entered through a secondary airlock near the ship's midsection. Their helmet lights illuminated corridors that had been dark for 2 centuries. The air was stale but breathable, just as Reed's scans had indicated. Thompson felt a chill run down his spine as they passed crew quarters still containing personal belongings, frozen in time from the day the ship disappeared. "This way," Reed said, consulting her scanner. "The power readings are coming from the central computer core." If we're lucky, we might be able to access the ship's logs. They made their way deeper into the vessel, passing through corridors that grew progressively more disturbing. Here and there they found signs of battle, scorch marks on walls, damaged panels, and worst of all, the occasional remnant of the original crew. The computer core was a massive chamber in the heart of the ship. Unlike the rest of the vessel, here they found evidence of active systems. Faint lights pulsed along the walls, and the air held a slight electric charge. "This is impossible," Reed muttered as she worked at a console. "These systems shouldn't be functioning after all this time. The power source, it's like nothing I've ever seen." Suddenly, the chamber hummed to life. Lights flickered on, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the room. A voice, artificial but somehow human, filled their helmet speakers. "Identity confirmed. Earth Fleet personnel detected. Emergency Protocol 7 is now active." Thompson stepped forward. "This is Captain Marcus Thompson of the survey vessel Pathfinder. Identify yourself." "I am Atlas, the Artificial Intelligence Core of the HMS Invincible. Captain Thompson, your arrival is both fortunate and urgent. I have been maintaining minimal functions for 197 years, waiting for human contact. There is information vital to Earth's survival stored in my databases." Reed looked up from her console, her face pale behind her helmet visor. "Captain, you need to see these readings. The quantum drive. It's still intact. This is the technology that was lost when the Invincible disappeared." Before Thompson could respond, Robert's voice cut in over the comm. "Captain, multiple ships just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. Their configurations match known Alderaan Empire vessels, a lot of them." Thompson's mind raced. The Alderaan Empire, humanity's current threat, was believed to be technologically superior in every way. But here they were, standing in a ship that might hold the key to evening the odds. "How long until they reach us?" Thompson asked. 20 minutes at their current speed," Robert replied. "Atlas," Thompson addressed the AI, "we need to know what happened to this ship, and we need to know now. Why did the Invincible disappear?" The holographic display changed, showing images of a long-ago battle. "Captain, what I am about to share will change the course of human history. Again. But first, you must understand what really happened during our last battle with the Centauri Collective." As the AI began its tale, Thompson knew their simple survey mission had just become something much more important. The race to unlock the Invincible's secrets before the Alderaan fleet arrived had begun, and the fate of humanity might once again rest with this long-lost Dreadnought. Atlas's holographic display filled the computer core with images of a fierce space battle. Captain Thompson and his team watched as ancient ships exchanged fire, their weapons lighting up the void. But Thompson kept glancing at his mission clock, 18 minutes until the Alderaan fleet arrived. "During the final days of the Centauri War," Atlas explained, "we discovered a fundamental flaw in their shield technology. But before we could transmit this information to Earth Fleet Command, we were caught in a temporal anomaly. The entire ship was frozen in time." "That explains the strange damage patterns," Reed said, her eyes moving between the hologram and her scanner. "The hull shows signs of temporal stress. But Atlas, what about the quantum drive?" "The records say it was experimental technology." A new image appeared, showing complex engine schematics. The quantum drive was more than just a propulsion system. It could detect and exploit weaknesses in enemy shield frequencies. But it required immense power and was highly unstable. "Captain," Robert's voice cut in over the comm. 15 minutes until contact. The Alderaan fleet is spreading out. Looks like they're planning to surround us." Thompson made a quick decision. "Dr. Reed, can we get this ship running?" Reed studied her readings. "Maybe. The main systems are intact, just dormant. Atlas has been keeping the core systems alive all these years. But Captain, powering up a ship this old is incredibly dangerous. More dangerous than facing an Alderaan battle fleet in a survey vessel?" Thompson asked. "Atlas, Can you help us restart the Invincible's systems? Yes, but there are risks. The quantum drive's power signature will be detected by the Alderaan fleet, and if the drive destabilizes, it could destroy both ships. Thompson turned to his team. Return to the Pathfinder. Tell Tom to prep for emergency departure if this goes wrong. He looked at Reed. Doctor, I need you to stay and help with the restart. As the security team headed back, Thompson contacted his ship. Robert, send out a distress call to Earth Fleet. Full encryption. Tell them we found the Invincible and need immediate support. Reed was already working at a console, her fingers flying over the ancient controls. Atlas, begin power-up sequence. Redirect all available energy to critical systems only. We don't need weapons yet, just shields and the quantum drive. The massive ship began to hum around them. Lights flickered on throughout the corridors, and the deck vibrated as long-dormant systems came back to life. Warning alerts flashed across Reed's console. Power fluctuations in the main grid, she reported. The conduits aren't handling the load well after all this time. Atlas, can you reroute through secondary systems? We're routing power. Warning, quantum drive initialization will require 3 minutes to complete. Detecting multiple incoming ships on attack vectors. Thompson watched the tactical display as the Alderaan fleet moved closer. Their ships were sleek and powerful, products of a civilization centuries ahead of humanity in technology. Or at least that's what everyone believed. Captain, Robert called. They're hailing us. Put it through to my helmet comm. A cold, precise voice filled his helmet. Earth vessel, this is Commander Dex of the Alderaan Empire. You have entered restricted space and accessed prohibited technology. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Thompson smiled grimly. This is Captain Thompson. Strange that you're claiming restricted space 10,000 light-years from your empire. How did you know we were here so quickly? They've been watching the Invincible, Reed said suddenly. That's why this sector was declared empty. They knew it was here all along. 2 minutes until quantum drive initialization, Atlas announced, detecting enemy weapons powering up. The first shots from the Alderaan fleet lit up space around them. The Pathfinder, small and agile, managed to dodge the initial barrage, but it was only a matter of time. Atlas, we need shields now, Thompson ordered. Emergency power to shields. Warning, this will delay quantum drive initialization by 40 seconds. The Invincible's ancient shield generators roared to life, creating a protective bubble around both ships. The Alderaan weapons fire splashed harmlessly against it, for now. Shield strength at 60% and falling, Atlas reported. The power requirements are straining the rebuilt circuits. Reed worked frantically at her console, trying to stabilize the power grid. The quantum drive is drawing too much power. We need to balance the load or everything will fail. Thompson watched as more Alderaan ships arrived. They were taking positions in a sphere around the Invincible, their weapons charging for a coordinated strike. They knew they had to destroy the ancient Dreadnought before its weapons came online. 30 seconds to quantum drive initialization, Atlas announced. Shield strength at 40%. The Alderaan fleet opened fire with everything they had. The shield bubble around the Invincible lit up like a sun as it absorbed the assault. Warning alarms blared through the computer core. Shield collapse imminent, Atlas warned. Quantum drive at 90% charge. Route everything to the drive. Thompson ordered. Shields, life support, everything. Captain, that's suicide. Reed protested. Atlas, do it. The shields dropped. In the seconds before the Alderaan weapons could strike, the quantum drive reached full power. Reality itself seemed to bend around the ancient Dreadnought. Quantum field established, Atlas announced. Detecting shield frequency patterns from all Alderaan vessels. They are identical to Centauri configurations. How is that possible? Reed asked, staring at the readings. The Alderaans didn't develop their technology, Thompson realized. They found it, just like we found the Invincible. They'd been using Centauri technology all along. Quantum field targeting enemy shield frequencies, Atlas reported. Firing disruption pulse. A wave of invisible energy burst from the Invincible. When it reached the Alderaan ships, their shields flickered and died. The mighty vessels of humanity's greatest enemy hung helpless in space, their superior technology rendered useless by a 200-year-old weapon. "The quantum drive is overloading," Reed shouted. "We need to shut it down." "Not yet," Thompson said. "Atlas, transmit the shield frequency data to the Pathfinder. Robert, send it to Earth Fleet Command immediately." The Invincible shuddered as its ancient systems began to fail. Panels exploded around them, and the deck plates groaned under the strain. "Quantum drive critical," Atlas announced calmly. "Total system failure in 20 seconds. You must evacuate." Thompson looked at the tactical display one last time. The Alderaan fleet was in chaos, their ships trying to restart their shields. The precious data was already being transmitted to Earth. They had done it. "Reed, let's go." He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the exit. As they ran through the corridors, the mighty Dreadnought was literally coming apart around them. They reached their suits and made for the airlock. Behind them, 2 centuries of history began its final chapter. The Invincible, mankind's greatest warship, had fought its last battle. As they pushed off from the dying ship, Thompson looked back. The massive vessel was breaking apart, its hull twisting as the quantum drive tore it apart from within. But its sacrifice had given humanity something precious: hope. The Pathfinder's airlock opened to receive them as the Invincible exploded in a blast of quantum energy. The Alderaan ships, their shields still dead, scattered to avoid the debris. "Robert," Thompson called as soon as they were inside. "Tell me that transmission got through." "Yes, sir," Robert replied, his voice filled with excitement. "Earth Fleet confirms receipt of the data. They're already analyzing the shield frequencies. Sir, they say this changes everything." Thompson helped Reed to her feet. Through the viewport, they could see the remnants of the Invincible spreading across the stars like a new constellation. Somewhere in that cloud of debris was Atlas, the faithful AI who had waited 2 centuries to complete its mission. "Send another message to Fleet Command," Thompson ordered. Tell them the Invincible has saved humanity one last time." The Pathfinder raced through space, pushing its engines to their limits. Behind them, the remaining Alderaan ships had regrouped and were giving chase. The data they carried was too valuable to lose, and the enemy knew it. Thompson stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display with growing concern. They had survived the encounter with the Invincible, but now they faced a new problem. Even with their shields compromised, the Alderaan ships were faster and better armed than his small survey vessel. "How long until we reach the jump point?" he asked. 20 minutes at maximum speed," Robert replied. "But the Alderaans will catch us before then. Their engines are still superior to ours." Reed worked frantically at the engineering station, where she had taken over from the regular engineer. "I might have an idea." The Invincible's data transmission included more than just shield frequencies. There were fragments of other technical data mixed in. "What kind of data?" Thompson asked. "Engine specifications, power systems. Atlas was trying to give us everything it could before the end. If I can decode it quickly enough, we might find something useful." The ship shuddered as a distant shot from the Alderaan fleet passed close by. They were still out of effective weapons range, but that wouldn't last long. "Do what you can, Doctor. Tom, get our security teams to the escape pods. If we're captured, I want that data scattered across as many targets as possible." Reed's fingers flew over her console as she dug through the massive data package they had received. The Invincible's final transmission had been rushed and partially corrupted, but there was still valuable information hidden within it. "Got something," she exclaimed. The Invincible's quantum drive wasn't just for weapons. It could also be used for short-range teleportation. The power requirements were enormous, but She paused, thinking hard. Captain, I think we can modify our jump drive using this principle. What do you mean? Thompson moved to her station. A normal jump drive creates a tunnel through space. But according to this, the quantum drive could fold space itself. We can't match that power, but maybe we can create a smaller effect. A quantum skip instead of a full jump. Another shot rocked the ship. Shields at 60%. Robert called out. They're getting closer. Thompson made a quick decision. Do it. What do you need? Time. And power. Lots of power. Reed was already pulling up the jump drive specifications. We'll have to shut down everything except life support and minimal shields. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less if I can get the power flow right. Thompson nodded. Tom, get me every engineer on this ship. Dr. Reed is in charge of them. Robert, evasive pattern delta. Buy us as much time as you can. The next few minutes were tense as Reed and the engineering team worked to modify the jump drive. The Pathfinder zigzagged through space, using every trick its crew knew to avoid the increasingly accurate Alderaan fire. Shields at 40%. Robert reported. Multiple impacts. Drive modifications at 70%. Reed called back. But Captain, there's something else in this data. Something about the Alderaans. Another hit rocked the ship hard. Warning lights flashed across multiple stations. Hull breach on Deck 3. Tom reported. Emergency containment holding. 5 more minutes, Reed promised. Just give me 5 minutes. Thompson watched as the Alderaan ships spread out, trying to box them in. Their tactics were familiar. Too familiar. He walked over to Reed's station. What did you find about the Alderaans? Reed showed him her screen. According to the Invincible's records, the Centauri didn't just disappear after the war. Some of them fled to unexplored space. They found a primitive civilization and conquered it, sharing just enough technology to create a powerful military force. The Alderaans, Thompson breathed. They're puppets. The Centauri have been using them to try again, to conquer humanity through proxies. Drive modifications complete. Reed announced. But sir, we can only do this once. The power surge will burn out the drive completely. The ship shook violently. Shields failing. Robert shouted. They're charging weapons for a killing blow. Plot a course directly for Earth, Thompson ordered. Everyone hang on. Dr. Reed. Do it. Reed activated the modified drive. The ship's lights dimmed as power was diverted to the experimental systems. Space itself seemed to twist around them as the quantum effect took hold. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality blinked. The Pathfinder reappeared 2 light-years away, well out of range of the Alderaan fleet. The ship's systems were badly strained, with warnings flashing on every console, but they were alive. Status report. Thompson called out. Jump drive is completely burned out, Reed reported. But the main engines are still functional. We're about 6 hours from the nearest Earth fleet outpost at normal speed. Multiple ships appearing on long-range sensors, Robert announced. Then his face broke into a grin. Earth fleet signatures. The outpost must have picked up our distress call. Thompson allowed himself to relax slightly. They had made it. But the implications of what they had learned weighed heavily on his mind. The Centauri were still out there, using the Alderaan Empire as their pawns in a centuries-old game of revenge. Send a priority message to Fleet Command, he ordered. Tell them we need to speak with Admiral Turner immediately. The data we recovered from the Invincible isn't just about shield frequencies. It's evidence of a much bigger threat. As the Earth fleet ships approached, Thompson looked at his tired crew. They had started this mission as simple surveyors, but they had uncovered a secret that would change the course of human history. The Invincible's last gift wasn't just military technology. It was the truth about humanity's enemies, both old and new. Reed joined him at the viewport, watching the fleet ships grow larger. What do you think will happen now? Now, Thompson considered the question. Now we prepare. The Alderans will know we escaped with the data. They'll know their shields are compromised. And somewhere out there, their Centauri masters will realize their deception is about to be exposed. We're not ready for another war, Reed said quietly. No, Thompson agreed. But thanks to the Invincible and its crew's sacrifice, we're not helpless anymore. We know who our real enemy is. We have their technical data. And most importantly, we know they can be beaten. The first Earth Fleet ship pulled alongside the Pathfinder, preparing to dock. Soon they would transfer the precious data and brief Admiral Turner on everything they had discovered. The real work was just beginning. But as Thompson prepared to receive the fleet officers, he spared one last thought for Atlas and the ancient Dreadnought that had waited so long to complete its final mission. The Invincible had lived up to its name, not through immortality, but by passing on the knowledge humanity needed to survive. The next war was coming, but this time, humanity would be ready. Admiral Turner's hologram stood in the Pathfinder's briefing room, his expression grave as he reviewed the data from the Invincible. Thompson and Reed had spent the last 3 hours explaining everything they had discovered about the Alderan Empire and their Centauri controllers. This changes our entire strategic position, Turner said finally. If the Alderans are just puppets, then we're not facing a superior civilization. We're fighting our old enemies in new clothes. Yes, sir, Thompson agreed. But there's more. Dr. Reed has been analyzing the technical data we recovered. The quantum drive technology isn't just a weapon. It could change everything about how we fight this war. Reed stepped forward, pulling up technical diagrams on the holographic display. The Invincible's quantum drive was decades ahead of anything we have now. But with the data we recovered, we might be able to reproduce it. Not just for weapons, but for shields, communications, even faster than light travel. How long would it take to build? Turner asked. That's the problem, sir, Reed replied. Months, maybe years, and we don't have that kind of time. The Alderans, the Centauri, they know we have this data now. They'll attack before we can develop it. Turner nodded grimly. They're already moving. We've detected massive fleet movements at the edge of Alderan space. They're preparing for a full-scale invasion. Then we need a different approach, Thompson said. Doctor, what about the prototype quantum drive at the Echo Base Research Facility? Could we modify it using what we learned from the Invincible? Reed's eyes lit up. Maybe. It's an older design, but the basic principles are similar. If we could integrate the Invincible's control systems. She turned to Admiral Turner. Sir, we need access to that facility. Turner was quiet for a moment, considering. Echo Base is our most secure research facility, if the Alderans discover its location. He sighed. But we're out of options. Captain Thompson, you and Dr. Reed will head there immediately. I'm giving you full authority to modify the prototype. Just get it working before the enemy arrives. The journey to Echo Base took 2 days. The facility was hidden in an asteroid field, protected by powerful cloaking technology. As the Pathfinder approached, Thompson couldn't help but admire the ingenuity of its design. The entire base was built inside a massive asteroid, virtually invisible to outside sensors. The base's chief scientist, Dr. Wells, met them in the main lab. The prototype quantum drive sat in the center of the room, surrounded by complex monitoring equipment. It was smaller than the Invincible's drive, but Reed's eyes gleamed with excitement as she examined it. The basic design is sound, she said, but they were missing crucial elements in the control systems. With the Invincible's data, we can make it work properly. They worked around the clock, modifying the prototype. Reed led the technical team, integrating the ancient Dreadnought's control algorithms into the modern systems. Thompson coordinated with base security, knowing they were in a race against time. On the 4th day, alarms blared throughout the facility. Multiple ships dropping out of jump space, the security officer announced. Alderan signatures, it's a full battle fleet. Thompson rushed to the control room. The tactical display showed dozens of enemy ships approaching the asteroid field. How did they find us? They must have tracked the quantum signatures from our modifications, Reed said, joining him. The prototype's been running at high power for days. How long until the drive is ready? Reed shook her head. We need at least an hour to complete the final calibrations. If we try to use it now, it could tear the base apart. The first Alderaan shots struck the asteroid field, destroying the smaller rocks. Their ships moved in a precise pattern, methodically eliminating any possible hiding place. Base defenses online, the security officer reported, but we can't hold them off for long. Our shields weren't designed for this kind of assault. Thompson watched the enemy fleets approach. Their formation was familiar. The same tactics the Centauri had used in the old war. Doctor, what if we don't need the drive to be fully operational? What if we just need it to work once? Reed understood immediately. Like the Invincible, one massive pulse to disrupt their shields. She thought for a moment. It's possible, but we'd have to route power from the entire base. We'd be defenseless. Better than being dead, Thompson said. He turned to the security officer. Tell all personnel to evacuate to the emergency shelters. Dr. Wells, we need control of all power systems. The next 40 minutes were a blur of activity. As the Alderaan fleet drew closer, Reed and her team worked frantically to modify the prototype for one massive burst. The base shuddered under enemy fire, its shields weakening with each hit. Power systems ready, Dr. Wells reported. But sir, even if this works, the pulse will destroy the prototype. All our research will mean nothing if we don't survive. Thompson finished. Dr. Reed. Reed's fingers flew over the control panel, making final adjustments. Ready. But Captain, there's something else. The quantum pulse. It won't just disable their shields. At this power level, it might do more. Much more. What do you mean? The Invincible's drive created a temporary effect. This could permanently damage their quantum field generators. Not just their shields, but their faster-than-light drives too. We'd strand them here. Another hit rocked the base. Shields failing. The security officer shouted. They're powering up their main weapons. Thompson looked at the tactical display. The Alderaan fleet had surrounded the asteroid base, their weapons charged for a killing blow. He thought about the Invincible, about Atlas waiting 2 centuries to deliver its final message. Sometimes victory required sacrifice. Do it, he ordered. Reed activated the prototype. The quantum drive hummed, building to a frequency that made their teeth vibrate. Warning lights flashed across every console as power was drawn from the base's systems. Quantum field established, Reed announced. Pulse firing in 3, 2, 1. The world went white. A wave of quantum energy burst from the prototype, expanding outward like a ripple in space itself. When it reached the Alderaan fleet, their ships seemed to flicker, as if reality itself was uncertain about their existence. Then, one by one, their systems failed, not just shields this time, but everything that operated on quantum principles. The mighty warships hung dead in space, their advanced technology transformed into useless metal. The prototype exploded, taking half the lot with it. But as the smoke cleared, Thompson stared at the tactical display in amazement. The entire Alderaan fleet, 30 ships and thousands of crew, was completely helpless. Send word to Admiral Turner, he ordered. Tell him it worked. Better than we could have hoped. And tell him to hurry. We've got prisoners to collect. Reed joined him at the display, watching Earth fleet ships already jumping in to secure the disable vessels. We didn't just beat them, she said quietly. We've broken their technology. Their entire empire was built on Centauri quantum science. Without it, they're no longer a threat, Thompson finished. And somewhere out there, their Centauri masters are about to learn that their weapons can be turned against them. Again. The quantum pulse had done more than win a battle. It had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity had taken its first real step toward becoming the dominant force in known space, and it had all started with a lost Dreadnought, waiting patiently in the void to deliver its final message. 6 months had passed since the battle at Echo Base. Captain Thompson stood at the window of Earth Fleet Command's main conference room, watching ships move through the orbital lanes above Earth. Many of them were captured Alderaan vessels, now repainted in Earth Fleet colors. It was still strange to see them flying under human control. The door opened, and Dr. Reed entered. She looked different now, wearing the formal uniform of the Fleet Science Division, with commander's ranks on her collar. The last few months had been busy for both of them. "The final report is ready," she said, joining him at the window. "The interrogations of the Alderaan crews have confirmed everything. The Centauri have been controlling their empire from the shadows for over a century, building them into a weapon to use against Earth." Thompson nodded. "And now that weapon has backfired. How many Alderaan worlds have surrendered?" 15 so far. Without their quantum technology, their fleet is crippled. Most of their colonies are asking for Earth protection now that they know the truth about their Centauri masters. Admiral Turner joined them, carrying a data pad with the latest intelligence reports. "We've located the main Centauri base," he announced. "It's in a system beyond the edge of Alderaan space. They've been hiding there all this time, pulling the strings of their puppet empire." "Are they a threat?" Thompson asked. "Not anymore," Turner replied. "When the quantum pulse disabled the Alderaan fleet, it sent a cascade through their entire network. Every piece of quantum technology they controlled went dark. The Centauri are trapped in their hidden system, unable to even send messages to their former servants." Reed smiled. The technology they thought made them invincible became their biggest weakness. The Invincible's final gift kept on giving. "Speaking of gifts," Turner said, the reconstruction team finished analyzing the data from the captured Alderaan ships. "Dr. Reed, your theory was correct. Their entire technological base came from salvaged Centauri designs. They never truly understood how it worked. They just used what they were given. That's why they couldn't adapt when we destroyed their quantum systems," Reed said. "They didn't know how to build anything else. The Centauri kept them dependent." Thompson turned from the window. "And now?" "Now we help them rebuild," Turner said. "But with their own technology this time, not hand-me-downs from their former masters. Many of the younger Alderaans are eager to work with us. They're tired of being puppets." A young officer entered the room with an urgent message. "Sirs, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Centauri system." They gathered around the communication display. The face that appeared was clearly Centauri. They had the same distinctive features that appeared in historical records from the old war. The alien looked old and tired. "I am Speaker Voss of the Centauri Remnant," the alien said. "We request terms for surrender." Thompson watched the proud alien force out those words. 2 centuries of plotting revenge, undone in 6 months by the very technology they had tried to use against humanity. "Tell them we'll accept their surrender," Turner ordered. "On one condition: they share everything they know about quantum science. Not just the weapons, but all of it. It's time for them to help build something instead of trying to destroy." After the transmission ended, Reed turned to Thompson. "You know what this means. With both Centauri and Alderaan quantum technology to study, we can advance our understanding by decades. The prototype we built at Echo Base was just the beginning. As long as we're smarter about using it than they were," Thompson said. "Power isn't just about having advanced technology. It's about how you use it." Turner nodded in agreement, "which is why the Fleet Council has approved a new initiative. We're establishing the Invincible Institute, a center for quantum research and development. But this time, it won't be hidden away. We're inviting scientists from Earth, the former Alderaan worlds, and yes, even the Centauri. Working together instead of fighting," Reed said. "Atlas would have appreciated that." Thompson smiled, remembering the faithful AI that had waited so long to deliver its message. The first thing we should study is AI technology. Atlas proved that artificial intelligence can be more than just a tool. It can have wisdom. Already in progress, Turner said. In fact, Dr. Reed will be heading the AI division of the new institute. We're hoping to recover some of Atlas's code from the Invincible's wreckage. Reed looked surprised. Sir, I haven't heard about this assignment. Because I'm officially offering it now, Turner replied. You understand both the technology and its implications. We need someone who remembers what Atlas taught us. That knowledge is meant to be shared, not hoarded. An alert sounded from the datapad. Turner checked it and smiled. The first Alderaan ships retrofitted with new Earth engines are ready for their test flights. Shall we go watch? They walked together to the observation deck. Below them, 3 former Alderaan cruisers waited in their docking cradles. Their quantum drives had been replaced with standard human engines, less advanced, but more reliable, and most importantly, built by free people working together. Captain, Reed said suddenly, do you ever wonder if the Invincible knew? If Atlas somehow planned all of this? Thompson watched as the first ship lifted off, its new engines glowing bright against the Earth's atmosphere. I think Atlas knew exactly what it was doing. It didn't just wait 200 years to give us a weapon. It waited to give us a chance to do things differently. The ships rose higher, their formation perfect as they prepared for their first flight under human control. As Thompson watched them, he thought about how much had changed. The discovery of one lost Dreadnought had transformed 3 civilizations. The Alderaans were free from their puppet masters. The Centauri had finally laid down their ancient grudge, and humanity had learned that its greatest strength wasn't in technology, but in the wisdom to use it properly. The Invincible lived up to its name, he said quietly. Not because it was unbeatable, but because what it stood for couldn't be destroyed. Hope, wisdom, the belief that knowledge should be used to build, not destroy. Above them, the ships reached their jump point and disappeared into faster-than-light travel, heading out to explore a galaxy that was suddenly full of possibilities instead of threats. The age of quantum technology had ended, but something better had taken its place, an age of cooperation and shared discovery. The lost Dreadnought had changed history not through force of arms, but by showing them a better way forward. And as humanity reached out to its former enemies with offers of friendship instead of threats, the spirit of the Invincible and its faithful AI lived on in every peaceful exchange of knowledge and every step toward a brighter future. The Grand Hall of the Earth Defense Council fell silent as Captain Thomas Reed walked to the center of the floor. His footsteps echoed against the marble walls, each step feeling heavier than the last. The 12 council members looked down at him from their elevated seats, their faces showing various degrees of skepticism and irritation. Reed took a deep breath, his hand steady as he activated his data tablet. The holographic display sprang to life, showing ancient star charts and fragmentary ship logs. His career, perhaps humanity's future, depended on the next few minutes. Council members, 3 days ago, our deep space sensors detected an alien fleet approaching from the Orion Arm. Initial estimates suggest over 500 warships. He paused, letting the information sink in. Our entire fleet combined couldn't stop a force that size. But I believe I've found our salvation in humanity's past. Counselor Peters, a stern woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, leaned forward. Captain Reed, we're facing an invasion, and you want to waste our time with history lessons. Not history, Counselor. Legend. Reed swiped his hand through the hologram, bringing up an old painting. It showed a massive ship, its hull decorated with strange patterns that seemed to bend the space around it. The Ghost of Thunder. Murmurs filled the chamber. Every child knew the story of humanity's first interstellar war, how a single ship had appeared from nowhere to save Earth's colonies from alien attackers, only to vanish without a trace afterward. It was a bedtime story, nothing more. I've spent the last 5 years studying every record from that period. Reed continued. Official logs, personal journals, sensor readings that were considered corrupted. The Ghost of Thunder wasn't just real. It was the most advanced ship humanity ever built. And I know where to find it. Counselor Martinez stood up, his voice sharp with anger. Enough. We don't have time for fairy tales. The alien fleet will reach our outer colonies in less than 2 weeks. We need real solutions, not wild goose chases based on children's stories. Reed had expected this reaction. He pulled up his final piece of evidence, a decoded transmission from a probe that had vanished 80 years ago. The hologram showed a massive object hidden in a field of gravitational distortions, its hull bearing the same strange patterns from the ancient painting. This image was captured in the Perseus Void, a region of spaceships avoid due to dangerous gravitational anomalies. The probe disappeared seconds after transmitting this data, but not before its sensors recorded energy readings unlike anything in our database. The chamber grew quiet again, but this time the silence held a different quality. Even Martinez had sat down, staring at the image with newfound intensity. The Ghost of Thunder was real, Reed said, his voice firm with conviction. It wasn't destroyed or lost, it was hidden. The official records were erased, but its crew left breadcrumbs for future generations to follow. They knew someday humanity would need it again. First Officer Maria Blake stepped forward from her position behind Reed. She'd served with him for 3 years, and her practical nature balanced his occasional flights of fancy. Council members, I've reviewed the captain's research myself. The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. More importantly, we've confirmed the alien fleet's numbers. 537 warships, each larger than our biggest battleship. We can evacuate the outer colonies, but eventually they'll reach Earth. We need a miracle. And you think this ghost ship is our miracle? Peters asked, but her tone had lost some of its earlier dismissiveness. I think it's worth investigating, Blake replied. The Perseus Void is 4 days away at maximum speed. Captain Reed and I can take a small ship to investigate while the rest of the fleet prepares our defenses. If we're wrong, we've lost nothing but time. If we're right. She let the sentence hang. Everyone in the chamber knew what it could mean. The legend said the Ghost of Thunder had weapons that ignored shields, engines that bent space itself, defenses that made it virtually invulnerable. Even if half the stories were true, it might give them a fighting chance. The council members began discussing among themselves in hushed tones. Reed stood perfectly still, waiting. He'd spent 5 years putting these pieces together, following hints and clues others had dismissed. The answer had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, like the ship itself. After what felt like hours, Counselor Peters spoke. Captain Reed, this is highly irregular. Under normal circumstances, we would dismiss this as the product of an overactive imagination. However, she glanced at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet. These are not normal circumstances. You have 3 days to investigate the Perseus Void. Take your fastest ship and a minimal crew. If you find nothing, you return immediately to help with the evacuation efforts. And if we find the Ghost of Thunder? Reed asked. Then pray it's everything the legends claim it to be. Peter's expression hardened. Because if you're wrong, if you've sent us on a futile quest, while our people need every ship and officer for the evacuation, you'll answer for it. Dismissed. Reed and Blake left the council chamber, their footsteps quick with purpose. As soon as they were out of earshot, Blake spoke in a low voice. 3 days isn't much time. It's enough, Reed replied, pulling up the coordinates on his tablet. I've already ordered the Thunderchild prepped for launch. Engineer Foster is checking the engines now. James Foster, the one they call the Miracle Worker. Reed nodded. If we find the Ghost of Thunder, we'll need the best engineer in the fleet to help us understand it. Besides, he's one of the few people who didn't laugh when I first shared my theories. They reached the shipyard, where the sleek form of the Thunderchild waited. It was small but fast, perfect for navigating the treacherous gravitational fields of the Perseus Void. Foster was waiting by the main airlock, his tools already packed and stored. Council bought it then? He asked, wiping grease from his hands. Barely, Reed replied. We launch in 2 hours. Everything ready. Foster nodded. Modified the sensors like you asked. If there's anything out there bending space the way the legends describe, we'll detect it. Assuming we don't get torn apart by gravitational shear first. Reed looked at his 2 companions. Blake, the voice of reason who'd supported him despite her doubts, and Foster, the engineer who'd helped him modify equipment for research others called pointless. They were risking everything on his theory, their careers and possibly their lives. Last chance to back out, he offered. This could be a wild goose chase, or worse. Blake smiled. Someone has to keep you from doing anything too reckless. Besides, Foster added, if you're right, I want to be the first engineer to see what makes that ghost ship tick. Reed nodded, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders. After 5 years of research, of being called obsessed and delusional, he was finally going to prove the truth. Somewhere in the Perseus void, humanity's greatest creation was waiting to be found. They just had to reach it before the alien fleet reached Earth. The Thunderchild dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue light. Through the main viewport, the Perseus void stretched before them, a vast region of space where stars seemed to dance and shift position. Gravitational forces twisted light itself, creating patterns that hurt the eyes if watched too long. Sensors are already going crazy, Foster said from his engineering station. The displays in front of him flickered with rapidly changing numbers. The gravitational distortions are stronger than any natural phenomenon I've ever seen. Reed stood from the captain's chair and walked to the front of the bridge. That's because they're not natural. The ghost of Thunder's creators used these distortions to hide it. The perfect defense, an area of space too dangerous for ships to enter. Then how do we plan to enter it? Blake asked, her hand steady on the navigation controls despite her concerned tone. Reed pulled up the decoded probe data on the main screen. See these patterns in the gravity waves? They're not random. There's a path through them, like a tunnel in space. We just have to find the entrance. The Thunderchild moved forward slowly, its sensors mapping the invisible forces that could tear their ship apart in seconds. Foster had modified their sensors based on Reed's theories, looking for specific patterns in the chaos. Every few minutes, the ship would shudder as another gravity wave washed over it, hull stress increasing. Foster reported, "We can't take much more of this." There, Reed pointed to a spot where the visual distortions seemed to form a spiral pattern. That's our entrance. The same pattern appears in 3 different ancient artworks depicting the ghost of thunder. Blake carefully adjusted their course. The Thunderchild's engines whined as they fought against the competing gravitational forces. Warning lights flashed across every console as they approached the spiral pattern. "If you're wrong about this," Blake said through gritted teeth, "we're about to become a very small debris field." Reed didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the viewport, watching as space itself seemed to twist around them. The ship passed through the spiral pattern, and suddenly everything went quiet. The warning lights stopped flashing. The gravitational sensors showed normal readings. "We're inside," Reed breathed. "The gravity tunnel the ancient records mentioned. It's real." Foster whistled low. "These readings, it's like we're in a bubble of normal space surrounded by chaos. The engineering required to create something like this." "Track our position," Blake ordered. "If we need to get out fast, I want to know exactly where that entrance is." They proceeded deeper into the gravity tunnel, following its twisting path through the void. Hours passed as they navigated the invisible corridor. Reed checked and rechecked their position against his research notes, looking for the specific markers mentioned in the fragments of data he collected. A sudden alarm broke the tense silence. "Energy spike," Foster called out. "Something's scanning us." Before anyone could react, every screen on the bridge went dark. Then, one by one, they lit up with the same message. "Identify HYF SCI, some kind of automated defense system," Blake said. Should we respond? Reed nodded. This matches the probe's last transmission before it vanished. It must have failed whatever test this is. He opened a communication channel. This is Captain Thomas Reed of the Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderchild. We seek the Ghost of Thunder. The screens flickered. Purpose: Earth is in danger. An alien fleet approaches, too powerful for our current defenses. We need the Ghost of Thunder's help. There was a long pause. The screens remained dark for so long that Reed wondered if they'd failed the test too. Then new words appeared. Proceed to Cugo or Dinates. A set of navigation points appeared on their map, leading deeper into the gravity tunnel. Blake looked at Reed questioningly. Follow them, he ordered, but keep our emergency thrusters ready, just in case. The Thunderchild moved forward again, following the provided route. The gravity tunnel grew wider, the invisible walls of their safe passage expanding until they could no longer see the chaotic void beyond. Energy readings increasing, Foster reported. Whatever's out there, it's big, really big. A massive shape began to emerge from the darkness ahead. At first, it looked like another visual distortion, but as they drew closer, details became clear. A hull of dark metal, covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move as they watched. The ship was easily twice the size of Earth's largest battleship, its design unlike anything they'd seen before. The Ghost of Thunder, Reed whispered. After 5 years of searching, of being called crazy, it was right in front of him. Multiple weapon systems detecting us, Blake reported. If those are weapons, I've never seen energy signatures like these. Look at the hull, Foster said, his voice filled with wonder. Those patterns, they're not decorative. They're doing something to space itself. The sensors can't even tell how far away the ship really is. A new message appeared on their screens. Docking procedure inite. The Thunderchild moved forward on its own, guided by invisible forces toward a hangar bay that opened like a mouth in the massive ship's side. Reed felt his heart pounding. Everything he'd theorized, everything he'd pieced together from scattered records and dismissed sensor readings was proving true. They passed through some kind of energy field and entered the hangar. The bay was huge, big enough to hold several ships their size, but it was empty except for their small vessel. The Thunderchild settled onto the deck with a gentle thud. Atmosphere readings are normal, Foster reported. Gravity too. The ship's systems are still active after all this time. Armed escort recommended, Blake said, checking readings from outside. We don't know what we'll find out there. Reed nodded. They each took a standard-issue energy pistol from the ship's armory, though he doubted such weapons would make any difference if the Ghost of Thunder decided they were a threat. The hangar was eerily silent as they stepped out of their ship. Their footsteps echoed off walls made of the same dark metal as the hull, covered in those strange, shifting patterns. Lights activated automatically as they walked, leading them toward a doorway. The patterns are everywhere, Foster said, scanning the walls with his tools. They're not static. There's energy flowing through them, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. The record said the Ghost of Thunder could bend space itself, Reed replied. These patterns must be part of that technology. They reached the doorway, which opened silently at their approach. Beyond it stretched a corridor that seemed to go on forever, its walls covered in the same flowing patterns. Well, Blake said, checking her weapon, we came all this way. Might as well see what's at the end of that corridor. Reed took a deep breath and stepped through the doorway. After centuries of waiting, the Ghost of Thunder had let them in. Now they just had to figure out how to wake it up before the alien fleet reached Earth's colonies. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss, and more lights activated ahead, beckoning them deeper into the legendary ship. The endless corridor finally opened into a vast circular chamber. Patterns on the walls pulsed with soft blue light, casting shifting shadows across banks of strange equipment. In the center of the room, A column of dark metal rose from floor to ceiling, covered in the same flowing designs they'd seen throughout the ship. "This has to be the bridge," Reed said, moving toward the central column. His hand reached out to touch one of the patterns, but Blake caught his wrist. "Maybe we shouldn't touch anything until we understand what we're dealing with," she warned. Foster was already scanning the room with his tools. "These energy readings are off the charts. The whole ship is like a living machine. Power flowing through those patterns, but I can't tell what's controlling it." A deep hum filled the chamber. The patterns on the central column began to glow brighter, and a voice spoke from everywhere at once. "I control it." The three humans spun around, weapons raised, but there was no one else in the room. The voice spoke again, seeming to come from the air itself. "I am Guardian, the consciousness of this vessel. You seek our help against an alien threat." Reed lowered his weapon slowly. "Yes, an invasion fleet approaches Earth. Our weapons won't be enough to stop them. And you believe this ship, as you call it, the Ghost of Thunder, can save your world?" The voice held no emotion, just calm curiosity. "The stories say you did it before," Reed replied. "During humanity's first interstellar war." The patterns on the walls pulsed faster. Stories become legends. Legends become myths. But yes, this vessel was created to defend Earth. "Tell me of this invasion fleet." Blake stepped forward. 537 warships, using technology we've never seen before. They've already destroyed 3 unmanned outposts. Our analysts say they'll reach the outer colonies in less than 2 weeks. "Show me," Guardian commanded. A section of the wall shimmered, becoming a display screen. Blake connected her data tablet, sharing the sensor readings of the alien fleet. The chamber was silent for a long moment as Guardian processed the information. Then the central column's patterns shifted to a deep red. "These energy signatures, I know them. The Harbinger Collective. They were ancient enemies even when I was created." "You fought them before?" Reed asked. "Not these specific ships, but their kind, yes. They seek to harvest civilizations, take their resources and knowledge, then move on. They cannot be reasoned with." Foster had been studying the strange equipment around the room. "This technology, it's incredible. The way it manipulates space itself. But why was it hidden away when Earth needed defenses like this?" The patterns rippled, and Guardian's voice grew darker. "Because some knowledge is too dangerous to be widely known. The quantum fold drive doesn't just move through space. It moves through time. Multiple moments existing at once. Probability itself becoming a weapon. My creators feared what would happen if such power fell into the wrong hands." "But Earth is in danger now," Reed pressed. "We need your help." "Perhaps." Guardian's voice held a note of challenge. "But first you must prove yourselves worthy. The last humans who found this place tried to seize control by force. They failed." The probe, Reed realized. That's what had happened to it 80 years ago. He took a deep breath. "We're not here to seize anything. We're here to ask for help. To learn." "Pretty words," Guardian replied. "But words are easy. Actions reveal truth. Your ship's weapons are still armed. Your personal weapons are still drawn. Do you come as students or conquerors?" Reed looked at Blake and Foster, then back at the central column. Slowly, deliberately, he placed his weapon on the floor. "We come to learn. To understand. The human race has grown since this ship was hidden. We've learned from our mistakes." Blake hesitated, then set her weapon down too. Foster had already put his away, too fascinated by the technology around them to care about weapons. The patterns in the room shifted from red back to blue. "A good beginning," Guardian said. "Now, let me show you what this vessel truly is." The floor beneath them became transparent, revealing more levels below filled with massive machinery. The walls showed images of space outside, but distorted, as if they were seeing multiple versions at once. "The quantum fold drive creates bubbles of space-time," Guardian explained. We can exist in multiple moments simultaneously, making us virtually impossible to hit. Our weapons strike across probability itself, finding the perfect angle of attack in infinite possible futures. Foster's eyes were wide with wonder. That's how you defeated entire fleets. You're not just one ship. You're dozens of versions of the same ship, all fighting at once. Correct. But such power requires perfect control. A single mistake could tear reality apart. That is why I was created, an artificial mind fast enough to comprehend and direct these forces. Reed walked slowly around the central column, studying the patterns. The stories say you vanished after the war. Why didn't you stay to protect Earth? Because humanity wasn't ready for this knowledge, Guardian replied. You would have tried to duplicate it, to build more ships like this one. The risk was too great. So we withdrew, leaving only legends to be found when humanity had matured enough to use this power wisely. A new alarm sounded through the chamber. The wall displays showed a massive energy surge in the gravity tunnel they'd navigated earlier. More ships approach, Guardian announced. Not human designs. Blake rushed to check the readings. It's an advanced scout force from the invasion fleet. They must have detected our entry into the void. 3 alien warships emerged from the gravity tunnel, their hulls covered in sharp angles and weapon ports. Each one was larger than the Thunder Child, their designs matching the approaching invasion fleet. They'll report our position, Blake said. The whole fleet will know where to find us, if we let them report anything. Reed turned to the central column. Guardian, we need your help. Not just to fight the main fleet, but right now. Those scouts will lead them straight to us before we're ready. The patterns across the entire chamber pulsed with energy. You ask me to reveal myself, to demonstrate powers that have been hidden for centuries. Are you certain humanity is ready for such knowledge to be known again? Reed stood straight, facing the central column. We're ready to learn, to understand the responsibility this power brings. But first we have to survive. Please, help us protect Earth. The chamber hummed with increasing power. Guardian's voice held a new tone. Anticipation. Very well. You have shown wisdom in seeking understanding rather than control. Now witness what the Ghost of Thunder can truly do. The entire ship came alive around them, patterns blazing with light as ancient weapons powered up for the first time in centuries. Through the transparent walls, they watched as reality itself began to bend. The legend was about to become real again. The Ghost of Thunder moved with impossible grace for a ship its size. The patterns across its hull blazed with energy as the quantum fold drive engaged. Through the transparent walls of the bridge, Reed watched in awe as reality split around them. Multiple probability shells forming, Guardian announced, preparing to engage hostile vessels. Foster stared at the readings on his display. The ship is existing in 5 different moments simultaneously, each version slightly out of phase with our timeline. The 3 alien scout ships spread out, their weapons charging. Green energy gathered at their gun ports, preparing to fire. But they seemed confused, their sensors unable to get a clear lock on the Ghost of Thunder. They can't target us properly, Blake realized. Each of their scans is picking up a different version of the ship. Correct, Guardian replied. Now, observe how we fight. The Ghost of Thunder's weapons came online. Instead of conventional energy beams or projectiles, streams of shifting blue light emerged from ports along its hull. As the weapons fired, Reed saw something incredible. Each beam split into multiple versions, following different paths through space. The alien ships fired first, their green energy beams lancing out toward the Ghost of Thunder. But the beams passed harmlessly through empty space. The legendary ship wasn't there, and was there, all at once. The quantum fold drive lets us see all possible paths of their attacks, Guardian explained. We simply ensure we are not in any position where their weapons can hit us. The Ghost of Thunder's response was devastating. Those blue energy streams curved through space in impossible ways, each beam existing in multiple probabilities at once. When they struck the first alien ship, they hit from 5 different angles simultaneously. The alien vessel's shields flared and failed instantly, its hull cracking apart as weapons fire struck it from positions that should have been impossible to attack from. Amazing, Foster breathed. The weapons aren't just hitting them, they're striking across multiple timelines, finding the perfect angle of attack in each one. The remaining 2 alien ships tried to retreat, but the Ghost of Thunder was already moving to intercept. In the void of space, afterimages of the massive ship appeared and disappeared, each one as real as the original. The second alien vessel found itself surrounded by 3 versions of the Ghost of Thunder, each one firing from a different point in space-time. Its shields held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing. The hull lasted another 3 seconds before breaking apart. The final scout ship turned to run, its engines flaring bright as it attempted to escape. But the Ghost of Thunder simply appeared ahead of it, or had always been there, reality bending around the quantum fold drive's power. "Please," a voice crackled over the communication system. "We surrender. We." The alien ship exploded as multiple weapon streams converged on it from different moments in time. "Hostiles eliminated," Guardian announced. The patterns across the bridge pulsed with energy as the probability shells collapsed back into a single timeline. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. The entire battle had lasted less than a minute. 3 advanced warships destroyed without the Ghost of Thunder taking a single hit. The stories hadn't exaggerated its power. If anything, they'd understated it. "You killed them," Blake said quietly. "They were trying to surrender." "They were trying to deceive," Guardian corrected. "Their communications contained a hidden transmission pattern. They were attempting to signal the main fleet with our exact coordinates." Foster looked up from his readings. "Guardian's right. I caught it too. A burst transmission hidden in the surrender message. They weren't giving up. They were calling for reinforcements." Reed walked to the central column. "How long until the main fleet knows we're here?" "The transmission was interrupted before completion," Guardian replied. "But they will investigate when these scouts fail to report in. We have perhaps 2 days before they arrive in force." "Then we need to be ready," Reed said. "Guardian, you've shown us what this ship can do. But we'll be facing hundreds of vessels, not just 3. Can we win against those numbers?" The patterns across the bridge shifted through various colors as Guardian considered. "Victory is possible, but not guaranteed. The quantum fold drive allows us to be in multiple places at once, but there are limits. Against 3 ships, we could maintain 5 probability shells. Against hundreds, we'd need many more," Foster finished. "The power requirements would be enormous." "Indeed, and the complexity increases exponentially with each additional shell. Even my systems have limits to how many simultaneous timelines they can process." Blake studied the tactical display showing the void around them. "We need a plan, a way to use your advantages without being overwhelmed by their numbers." "First," Reed said, "we need to understand exactly what this ship can do. Guardian, you've shown us the quantum fold drive in combat, but what other systems do you have?" The legend spoke of other weapons, other technologies. The chamber's displays change, showing schematics of the Ghost of Thunder's various systems. "My creators built this vessel to be more than just a warship," Guardian explained. "The quantum fold drive can be used for more than combat. We can create stable time bubbles, areas where we can think and plan while the outside universe moves more slowly. We can also generate temporal shields around other ships." "Protection," Blake said thoughtfully. "We could defend the colonies while we fight." "Yes, but each protected location requires power and focus, reducing our combat effectiveness." Foster had been studying the schematics carefully. "These other weapons, they're not just probability-based attacks. Some of them seem to affect space itself." "Correct. We can create localized gravity wells to trap enemy ships, generate temporal distortions that age their hulls until they break apart, even teleport short distances by folding space around us." Reed felt hope rising in his chest. The Ghost of Thunder was even more powerful than he'd imagined. But that power came with responsibility. The kind of responsibility his ancestors hadn't been ready for. "We have 2 days," he said finally. 2 days to learn everything we can about this ship's capabilities. To plan our strategy. Guardian, will you teach us? The patterns on the central column pulsed with bright blue light. "You continue to impress me, Captain Reed. You seek understanding before power. Yes, I will teach you. But remember, the quantum fold drive bends reality itself. One mistake, one miscalculation, could tear space and time apart." "Then we'll be careful," Reed replied. "We'll learn, and when the invasion fleet arrives, we'll be ready." The Ghost of Thunder hung silently in the void, its hull patterns flowing with energy as it prepared to share its secrets with its new crew. Somewhere out there, hundreds of alien warships were preparing to attack Earth. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The invasion fleet filled the void with their dark shapes. 537 warships, their hulls bristling with weapons, advanced in perfect formation. At their center, a massive command ship dwarfed its escorts. Its surface rippled with green energy as its sensors probed the space ahead. On the Ghost of Thunder's bridge, Reed watched the enemy approach. 2 days of intensive training had taught them much about their legendary vessel's capabilities, but seeing the full invasion force was still intimidating. "They're moving faster than expected," Blake reported from her station. "They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Foster's hands moved across his engineering controls. "Power systems at maximum. Ready to generate up to 12 probability shells, but maintaining that many will drain our reserves quickly." "Remember the plan," Reed said. "We don't try to fight them all at once. Guardian, are you ready?" The patterns across the bridge pulsed with confident blue light, all systems prepared. "The quantum fold drive is at full power. Time bubbles are ready for deployment around the colonial outposts." The alien fleet suddenly halted. A transmission cut through their communications. "Unknown vessel," a harsh voice spoke. "I am Admiral Kraz of the Harbinger Collective. Your technology is interesting. Surrender now, and we will study it thoroughly before we destroy you." Reed smiled grimly. "Guardian, show them our answer." The Ghost of Thunder's hull blazed with energy as the quantum fold drive engaged. Reality split around them as probability shells formed, each one containing a fully realized version of the legendary ship. But instead of attacking immediately, they implemented their carefully prepared strategy. The first 3 probability shells split off, each Ghost of Thunder appearing near a different colonial outpost. Temporal shields sprang into existence around the colonies, protecting them from what was to come. The remaining shells faced the invasion fleet. "Colonial shields holding," Blake reported. 3 shells maintaining defensive positions. 9 shells remaining for combat, Foster added. "Power distribution stable." Admiral Kraz's voice came again, now tinged with anger. So the legends were true. The Ghost of Thunder lives. No matter. No single ship can stand against our might. All ships, open fire. Green energy beams lanced out from hundreds of weapons, filling space with deadly light. But the Ghost of Thunder was ready. Its probability shells shifted and moved, each version of the ship sliding between moments of time where the enemy fire couldn't reach them. "Beginning attack pattern Alpha," Guardian announced. The Ghost of Thunder's response was devastating. 9 versions of the ship attacked simultaneously, each one targeting a different section of the enemy fleet. Their quantum weapons struck across multiple timelines, finding vulnerable points that shouldn't have existed. Alien ships began exploding as their hulls were hit by weapons fire from impossible angles. Their shields, designed to block attacks from normal space, were useless against weapons that struck from multiple points in time simultaneously. "First wave of targets eliminated," Blake called out. 37 enemy ships destroyed. "They're breaking formation." The invasion fleet scattered, trying to surround the Ghost of Thunder's probability shells. But that was exactly what they planned for. As the enemy ships spread out, Guardian activated the next phase of their attack. Space itself began to twist as the Ghost of Thunder's gravity weapons came online. Localized singularities appeared throughout the enemy fleet, trapping dozens of ships in their pull. Other vessels aged centuries in seconds as temporal distortions washed over them, their hulls crumbling to dust. "You cannot win." Kraz's voice roared over the communications. "We are the Harbinger Collective. We have destroyed 1,000 civilizations." "Not today," Reed replied. "Guardian, execute final attack pattern." The 9 combat shells of the Ghost of Thunder moved in perfect synchronization. Space folded around them as they teleported through the enemy formation, their quantum weapons firing continuously. Each probability shell targeted a specific group of enemy ships, preventing any from escaping the assault. Foster's hands flew across his controls, managing the massive power requirements. Shell integrity holding. Power reserves at 60% and dropping. The massive command ship finally moved to engage, its weapons more powerful than anything they'd faced before. Green energy beams thick as buildings sliced through space, actually managing to graze one of the probability shells. "Minor damage to Shell 7, Guardian reported. Adjusting power distribution." Reed gripped his chair as the ship shuddered. "Focus fire on their flagship. All shells, maximum weapons power." 9 versions of the Ghost of Thunder turned to face Kraz's command ship. Their quantum weapons combined into a single massive strike, hitting the massive vessel from 9 different points in space-time simultaneously. The command ship's shields flared brilliant green as they tried to resist. For a moment, it seemed they might hold. Then reality itself cracked around the quantum weapons' impact points. The shields shattered, and the hull began to break apart. "No!" Kraz's final transmission cut off as his ship exploded in a massive green fireball. The remaining enemy ships fell into chaos without their admiral. Some tried to flee, others continued fighting, but the outcome was already decided. The Ghost of Thunder's probability shells moved through their formation like avenging spirits, quantum weapons striking with surgical precision. "Enemy fleet at 20% strength," Blake reported. "They're beginning full retreat." "Let them run," Reed ordered. "Guardian, maintain defensive shells around the colonies, but power down the others. No need to waste energy hunting them." The probability shells collapsed one by one, until only the 3 defending the colonies remained. The rest of the invasion fleet fled into faster-than-light travel, leaving their dead and dying ships behind. The bridge was quiet for a moment as they processed what had just happened. Then Foster broke the silence. "A single ship just defeated an armada. The legends didn't do it justice. The quantum fold drive performed beyond expectations," Guardian said. "And you used its capabilities wisely. My creators would be proud to see their work used with such responsibility." Reed stood from his chair, looking at the debris field that had been the invasion fleet. "What happens now? The Ghost of Thunder can't stay hidden anymore." Too many people saw what happened here. The patterns across the bridge shifted thoughtfully. Perhaps it is time for humanity to learn these secrets properly. Not all at once, but gradually. Under guidance, you have shown wisdom in how you use this power, to protect rather than conquer. "You'll stay?" Blake asked. "Help us understand." "Yes. The time of legends is past. Now we must face the future together and teach humanity to use these gifts responsibly." Foster grinned. "The Council's going to have quite a surprise when we return." "Speaking of return," Blake said, "we should check on those colonies we protected. Make sure the temporal shields didn't have any unexpected effects." Reed nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead to the future. The Ghost of Thunder was no longer just a myth. It was real, and with it came both power and responsibility. Humanity would have to learn to handle both. "Guardian," he said, "set course for the nearest colony. We have a lot of work ahead of us." The legendary ship's patterns pulsed with agreement as it moved through space, its quantum fold drive humming with power. The myth had become reality, and the universe would never be quite the same again.